All right. Good morning and good evening, guys. I know some people are in a different time zone. So, basically, we already know the reason why we're here, right? And it's just to talk about Azure DevOps. Try to do some training around Azure DevOps and also um develop our skills, right? And please don't mind me. I don't know if it's everything I'll be teaching off it, right? I created the syllabus, but everything will be off it. So if you have any question, you can interrupt me at any time so that I'll be able to answer your questions, right? And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to start as detailed as possible in the sense that start from scratch. There are some people that don't have knowledge about infrastructure, right? And there are some people that have the knowledge about infrastructure but they just want to, or they're in different aspects of technology like data, or they're graphic designing products, technical support, right? But they just want to know about Azure, not really Azure, but the cloud environment as an entity, right? So, like I said, we have a syllabus that we're going to be following, which is going to assist me in taking you guys through this bootcamp, right? And I hope along the line, I will make it as practical as possible, right? You notice that in week one, one of the things we do in week one is set up an Azure account. So I remember the last bootcamp we had, I think 2 years ago, right? I invited you to my tenant so that you'll be able to deploy or anything. But this time around, you have to create your tenant yourself. So you deploy as many things as possible, or you would, even if it's just for a month, right? You can create a free Azure account, right? Um, I'll put you through how to create a free Azure account where it's going to give you more like uh a free $200 for 1 month. You'll be able, within that 1 month, you'll be able to um what's it called? Create any resources that you want to create, but you must not exceed that $200, of course, right? So that is one of those things we'll also look into. Now, all right, so let's just dive in, right? Um, as we all know, Azure is one of the cloud computing service providers, right? That we also have AWS, we also have GCP, we also have Alibaba, and we have several ones also, right? But one of the leading ones are Azure, AWS, and Google, right? And one reason why I would say these three major cloud service provider, right? They are almost same, right? The same way we have platform as a service in Azure, we have platform as a service in AWS. The same way we have SaaS in Azure, we have SaaS in GCP, right? And the same way we have infrastructure as a service, we also have that also in GCP and AWS, right? And the only difference there is um, the naming convention, right? For platform as a service in Azure, we call it app services, right? One of the example of platform as a service in Azure, we call it app services. We have Kubernetes, AKS, right? We have Azure Kubernetes service. While in AWS, we have Elastic Beanstalk, which denote app services in Azure. And we have EKS, which also is an example of AKS in Azure, right? They're almost the same thing. Once you learn one environment, it's easier for you to work in the other environment, right? Reason why, when you see job posting, you you'll see in their JD when they tend to say, let's say 70% in their JD, they say familiarity with one of the cloud services, Azure, AWS, and GCP. But companies that are explicitly saying AWS, Azure, but those companies maybe they they don't want to train you, right? They don't want to start. You're coming like as an experienced person, so they want to let you know that this is what we are focusing on. This is our environment, and this is what you start working with. Let's say second week of resumption, third week of resumption. Any company that asks you to start work the first week of resumption, please resign, right? Please, because it's that was on a lighter mood anyway. But you should know what to do. Any company that asks you to start work the first week of the resumption, right? You know what to do. All right, so that's just an overview of Azure, the difference between Azure and other cloud services. And also one thing in Azure is Azure services that we'll be talking about, right? Um, Without talking about three things, right? This I've mentioned it without expatiating on these things, right? I might not be able to get into those other things that we want to talk about, right? And those are the things I've mentioned before, right? Which is the platform as a service, PaaS. I'm dropping names as a chat. Some people already know it, so I'm just like I said, I'm going to be detailed as possible. Right? And also, this will be a 1 hour class, then 15 minutes for questions and answers. Right? And we have IaaS, infrastructure as a service. Then we have SaaS. I will really not talk much about SaaS because SaaS is an example of SaaS is your Gmail. An example of SaaS is TestRail, right? A QA platform. An example of SaaS is what's it called? Zendex, right? So those are examples of SaaS product. Your Gmail is a SaaS product. You just use it, you pay for it. Some people pay for it, right? Your Gmail, especially the premium version where you're able to record and other stuff, right? In some cases, I also consider Spotify a SaaS because you're not the owner. Your own is just go there, listen, register and listen, right? You're not so consider Spotify a SaaS in some cases, but other people also consider it as a platform as a service. All right, so these three things, as much as I want to be detailed enough in these three things, I don't want to go deep so that we'll be able to cover a lot of things with the period of this boot camp, right? Platform as a service, you still have there's a limited access that you can control, right? You have access to you can manage your code, you can manage your data, right? And for IaaS, right? Let me show you a picture. I don't know if this is for some weird reason it's not clear. Okay, yeah, you should be able to see this, right? Um, all right, so you see this platform as a service, you manage your application, you manage your data, while the runtime, the middleware, operating system, virtual, you don't manage it. The cloud provider manages it for you. The SaaS, you don't even manage, like I said, you don't manage anything. You just go there, register, and start using, right? And for infrastructure as a service, which is you manage the application, you manage data, you manage runtime, middle and US. The virtualization you don't manage, the server you don't manage, the storage you don't manage, and the networking. You notice that for everything there's some virtualization, server, storage you don't, and networking you don't manage it. That's why you're in a cloud environment. But if you're an on-prem, right, you see you manage everything squarely, right? That's why you for companies that have on-prem environments, that's why they employ system admin, Windows admin, network admin, storage or Linux administrator, Windows administrator, right? They also hire network engineers, right, to manage the firewall and everything. But right in the cloud environment, right, you those things that you don't manage, right, are the virtualization, servers, storage, and network. They are consistent along the three um, offerings, right? So you get what I'm trying to say. An example of this IaaS is a virtual machine, right? Virtual machine is the network, right? You don't manage it in cloud environment. Another example of this IaaS is virtual network. The first one I said was virtual machine. The second one I said is virtual network, right? And for platform as a service, you don't manage the app services where you deploy your application. You don't manage it. You only manage your application and your data, right? And for SaaS environment, you don't manage anything at all, right? So, so when like I said, this is an example of these virtual machines, right? This is an example of a IaaS, infrastructure as a service, and this is an example platform. App service is an example of platform as a service. One Kubernetes. There are other examples. I'm just trying to let you. Kubernetes is an example of platform as a service. But there are other examples also, right, that I can give. Data Lake is the platform as a service, right? So, so you get what I'm trying to say here. All right. Is there any other questions that I need to talk about, or do you have any question that I need to talk about? Any question at all that I need to answer before I move to the next one? All right. In the absence of no question, then I'll go to the next aspect, which is also is around the service and the architecture, right? That is the capex and the operational capex and opex, right? The capex is capital expenditure and opex is operational expenditure, right? I don't need to expand more on that because it's self-explanatory. Capex is money that you use to start up, and operational is money that you're using to maintain the daily usage of those resources, right? You're not paying upfront, right? You're paying while capex, you spend more on capex, right? If you were on-prem, if you're on-prem, you spend more on capex and also by capex in terms of buying servers, buying a lot of hardwares, right? Storage hardwares and the like, network storage hardwares, right? And in terms of operational costs, you need to pay the network engineer, um, system admin, Linux admin, you need to pay the server guys, you need to pay for lightning where your server is residing, right? You need to pay for the AC man that will fix your AC where the server is because if the server room needs to be chilled. You can't even stay more than an hour, right? Some servers, you can't stay there more than an hour, you're going to freeze. So you get what I'm trying to say. You need to pay them. That's the operational cost. So, and but in cloud environment, you would spend more on operational costs, right? The money the services are generating, right? At least if you deploy in a service, like now, let me show you an example. So if you see the cost analysis of how much I spend in a month, so I've spent $37 in a month, and it's forecasted to spend about 110 this month, right? And let's see if I can say last month, let's see how much I spent. I spent around $129 last month. Mm. And these are the operational cost, and also operational cost in the sense that uh, you're paying for the Azure administrator too, because you're using money to run these things, right? And the Azure now in cloud environment, you pay for an Azure administrator. Let's say you can have one or two Azure administrators, depending, right, on the company size. Whereas when you're in on-prem, you pay for network, Windows, uh, Linux, storage accounts, admin, network engineer, and so on and so forth, right? You get what I'm trying to say? So that's just how it looks like, right? And does anybody have any question? Because it seems that I want to believe that you guys are hearing me. Hello.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear
no,
you.
Yes, we can hear you.
all right. Okay, no problem. All right. So the next concept I want us to talk about is the regions, availability zone, then data center, right? So let's see, Azure Data Center. Look at how Azure Data Center looks like, right? It's just your regular server, just that you're not the one managing it, right? So look at how big this guy is. Look at how big it is, right? Some is as bigger than the whole of Surulere, right? I'm just using that as an example, right? So, and in let's say this image here, right? We have it in Lagos, right? We can have one in Ikorodu, we can have one in Badagry, we can have one in um what's it called? Ibejuleki, right? Those are zones. Those are what availability zones. So that when one something is down in the corridor, maybe your service is there, and you have availability zone enabled for your application, is going to what load balance to the one that is in Ibejuleki or Badagry, right? So that's the concept of availability zone. One region is maybe one is here, and another one is in Abeokuta. Another one is in no, different states. You get what I'm trying to say, right? So do you understand the concept of region and availability zone right now? Right? Availability zone is if probably you deploy something in Ikorodu is there, something happened in Ikorodu and the data center there is not responding. So your application should be able to load balance into somewhere similar within that same environment, right? Which can be Ibejuleki or Badagry. Badagry is very far to Ikorodu. So you can, let's say, load balance to, what's it called, to Ibejuleki. Do you understand? That's the concept of availability zone. And region is when you talk about states like that, right? One is in Lagos State, one is in South Africa. We can also use South Africa too. The region can be is different from availability zone in general. So do you guys understand that? All right. So Okay. All right. So the next one we'll also be talking about the major service that will also that are majorly used in Azure is the compute, the storage, the networking, the database, and recently companies have started using AI and machine learning. Do you understand? When I mean compute, I mean virtual machine, right? When I mean computers, I mean virtual machine, I mean nodes. Nodes also are virtual machine. When I mean storage, I mean disks, a storage account, networking, a VNet, database, it can be Azure SQL, it can be MongoDB, it can be Postgres, right? And we know the general one, AI and machine learning. To use AI and machine learning is very, very expensive, right? Very expensive to use, not like expensive compared to having an express route, right? But it's still, to some extent, it's kind of expensive to use. But then it depends on the company. If the company is ready to pay, at least you'll be paying close to between $200 to $500 every month if you were to be using an AI machine learning studio on Azure, right? So that's that. Um, Okay, landing zone. Okay, yeah. Motorline is asking around landing zone, right? So landing zone is just I think the last bootcamp we did, I did a drawing around landing zone, right? Ebenezer Taiwo, your mic is on mute. Okay. I did a talk about landing zone. Landing zone is just let me show you how landing zone looks like. You see, let me use one clear landing zone. This guy is this one is it's very explanatory. Hopefully, it's uh, all right. So landing zone is just I will talk about that. It's just about the hierarchy in Azure, right? So I will explain that in a jiffy. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me see if I'm going to talk about it now. Yeah, this was towards the ending of what I'm going to talk about, right? And what this is what landing zone looks like, and I'm going to explain that towards the ending of this session today. All right, so I've talked about the role of Azure in cloud computing as a whole. We've talked about the operational cost, the capex, also explained platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and also software as a service, right? I explained the concept of region, the availability zone, and how Azure Data Center looks like, right? And also gave you the examples of compute, examples of storage. So please take note of these terminologies, right? It's very important, right? So examples of store a compute, when you're talking about compute, you're talking about virtual machines, right? So when you're talking about storage, you're talking about disks or storage account itself, right? And when you're talking about networking, VNet, subnet, right? Or something around that. And when you're saying databases, you know, Postgres, um, MySQL, SQL, um, MongoDB, right? And we have the AI and machine learning also. And so the next part is where I'll show you guys how to create a free account, right? And my Visual Studio, my so one of those things, just go to my Visual Studio and you will be prompted to log in, right? Of course. I don't know for some, I don't want to change my network. All right, let me try to change to more faster network. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, so if we go to myvisualstudio.com, it's going to, okay, I don't need to authenticate, right? Then you come to benefits included in my subscription, right? Then you come here. There's supposed to be one here. Apart from this guy, apart from this, there's supposed to be one where you have $200, right? You have the one of 200. I don't know why I don't have this, right? I think this one was because I've linked my email to my work email at some point when I was still working with Microsoft. So that's why I still showing this guy. So that's why I still showing this 150, but for some varied reason, I'm not seeing the 200. But if you log in, right, as probably at an Outlook person, or you have a Microsoft email, Outlook or Hotmail, something like that. I think this guy is Hotmail, yeah. So you have the 200, and then you just click on activate. You ask for your details and everything, and it's activate. Mind you, it's going to ask for your what's it called, card details, but you're not going to get debited, right? So card details is just for you to be there by the time you decide to switch to pay as you go. Please, for no reason, right? For no reason should you switch to pay as you go and leave your resources still provisioned. Your money will be gone. Trust me, right? So if you know you don't want to do that, don't switch to pay as you go and leave your resources, especially when you're done with your provisioning, or you're not using the application. It's not as if you're using the application, right? So do you understand me now? Do you have any questions around creating an account and stuff like that? You can also message me privately and tell me, oh, I want to create an account, or you're having these difficulties, right? Just let me know. I'll be able to attend to you. All right. So any questions so far before I move to the next part? So I'm trying to do the introduction as much as possible, because from next week, right, we'll be doing more of practical. That's why I want everybody um to what's it called, to work on setting up the account probably this week, right? Once you set it up, then we'll be able to see how we can move ahead. Do you understand? Right. Any question, please, before I go ahead?
Yeah, Olaiton, please, I have a question. So regarding the tenants, I
Mhm.
want to confirm, is it the free tenants that we usually use then while in tech experts to reproduce issue? So I'm thinking if it is that, then I don't need to create another tenant. I just want to be sure.
No, so if you're able, it's not about tenant, right? So once you register for Azure, it gives you the ability to register for Azure. It creates a tenant for you, right? So that's why I said, look at this. Look at this, my directory here. So this is my directory, and this is my tenant. You see the tenant ID, right? So it's not about probably your tenants. But once you're able to activate it 200, that's fine. If you still have that 150 also, that's fine too. You get.
Okay.
But you can check for you, someone like you can log into Azure portal.azure.com. So check this directory if you have any of these directory, and see if you have money in it. You get. So that should also help you instead of going ahead to activate $200 for a month.
Okay.
All right. We've talked about now.
So
Let's.
I just want to ask the question.
Okay, please go ahead.
I believe this $200 subscription is just basically for those that want to learn and develop themselves on Azure.
Mm-hmm.
But do we have the business side of this Azure
What is the business side?
for companies, like the business side, like in terms of the company is about to have this particular Azure for their, what is it called, for their usage? Is there a business account or is it just a normal account?
Just the personal accounts. It's
So
just
the
the
money you
personal account.
subscribe on it, the money you subscribe on it will depend on the resources you have that you want to manage on that particular, on that platform itself.
If I'm getting it right, you're talking about the $200 that Microsoft gives. So the $200 is just for you to use within a month, right? It does not, you don't, once it's done, you won't be able to, once that 1 month elapsed, right? You won't be able to access all these resources except to see
Okay.
to, yeah, you won't be able to access it. That's just the downside of it. So anything you want to learn, you need to learn it in 1 month. So that's just it.
Okay, a quick question, Mr. Ola. Yeah, if like for instance, like if you have Azure, your previous
Mm-hmm.
account, right, and your
Mm-hmm.
money is like, like when you create a new account, right, they give you a bonus of 200, and once the
Mm-hmm.
200 is do we'll be the one to load it by ourselves, right, to continue, just do like not doing like pay as you go. You do like the normal monthly services, right?
No, no, no. So that would be the end of that mode of payment, right? You now have
Yes,
to,
yes,
if you still need to continue that same resources using that, you
yes.
have to switch to pay as you go.
Okay.
So if you switch to pay as you go, then definitely, and you feel okay, I think I can start paying for this, pending when
Mhm.
I'm done with what I want to do, right? But just
Yes,
make sure that as you're deploying something, you see that, oh, this thing works, delete it.
yes,
You understand?
yes.
So once you
Okay.
can do that and manage yourself for the next, let's say, 3 months. Once you deploy anything and, oh, this thing is working, just delete it. You don't need to, don't. There's some times where I work on something and it worked and I say, okay, fine. I forget myself like 14 days and I get an alert that, oh, they are getting, I think that happened to me in AWS. I just provisioned something I was trying to set up for a job I was applying for, and I did everything that they told me to do, right, on AWS. And after I submitted, I believed that the company was going to access those things. I gave them all these credentials for them to test everything that I did, right? And I forgot about it. By the time bill came, right, I was not smiling, even though I didn't get the job anyway. So
Mm,
you see what I was trying to say. So once you
yes.
deploy, just delete it. There's nothing. As far
Okay.
as you've gained that knowledge, right?
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
most
Thank you very
important thing.
much. Thank you. So,
Okay, good evening. So like my question is because when you said something about if you're setting up an on-site environment, you have to get um you have to get somebody who is going to manage the network, you have to get
Mm-hmm.
storage and the rest of them. So my question is, let's bring it to Azure services. Can
Mm-hmm.
somebody actually focus or let's say focus on a particular how will I put it? Like a particular role. Like here we have or do you have to just know everything?
Okay, so that's why they said an Azure administrator, right? So now, let me use some examples of some companies in Nigeria, right? Um, Especially the banking space, right? Most that have hybrid, hybrid in the sense that they have Azure and they have on-prem, right? So what they do is they allow their networking guys in on-prem to focus on and the network in Azure. Their Windows guy to focus on maybe their VMs in Azure, right? That was what they did because they already have the guys. But as a company, okay, so I'll ask, let me ask it in this way. As a startup, right? I own a company and I'm is squarely the cloud environment, right? So would you advise me because of I want to manage my costs, right? Would you advise me to employ somebody that is focused on identity, right? Or is focused on app deployment and also focus on storage and also focus on networking, where I have another Azure administrator that can handle everything? What would you suggest? Right? You want me to employ one person that can do everything now? Right? You get what I'm trying to say? So that's
Yes, I
why
do.
if you are coming in as an Azure administrator, right, you're knowing everything. Identity. When I mean identity is around the Active Directory, the permissions, the subscription, and everything like that. And when then or we are saying networking, you know about networking, you know about site to site, point to site, you know about load balancer, gateway, and stuff like that. You know how to calculate subnets. You know how to calculate subnet IP, the VNet IP, and stuff like that, right? Or let me start say deployment, DevOps engineer. That means you're responsible for deploying anything that has to do with infrastructure and also your application into Azure, right? So definitely, I won't want to hire those people when I have one person that can do everything. That's why this bootcamp is focusing on the Azure administration and also the DevOps aspect of it too. Do you understand?
Okay, yes, I do. However, I also have another question. Now, my question is, how long does it take one to become an administrator, an Azure administrator, and what's the difference between an Azure administrator and a DevOps engineer or a
Okay.
DevOps person?
Okay. So the difference is two things. Or let me say, what was the first question again? Sorry, I think I remember, but I forgot immediately.
Okay,
The
so the
first question.
first question is, how long does it take
Okay,
one to
yes.
become?
How long, right? I, to be honest with you, there's no particular time duration for you to learn. It's all about anything you want to learn, even as well, for anything outside the tech space, right? It's all about consistency, right? It's all about consistency. The way you can call me and tell me, oh, I have this issue in Azure, and this is what I would, I can solve that for you without even thinking, with while I'm attending to another thing, right? My mind is not there, right? But I see your question, I understand that I attend to it immediately. Compared to you calling me and telling me, oh, I have this issue in Google, Google Cloud Services. I'll tell you, just chill. Let me be in my right state of mind, or I need to drop every other thing. That means the consistency in the fact that I have done this a number of times. I have interacted with Azure a number of times for me to know that when there's an issue, I know where the issue is coming from. Do you understand? Compared to when you come to GCP, I have this, oh, this. So like, okay, this, let me give you last week. I have a friend, he's a software engineer, right? He's not even in Nigeria self. So he just messaged me. I'm sorry, some of you know that I don't respond to message on time, so I apologize. So I saw his message like an hour later. Oh, I'm trying to deploy a Terraform into AWS, right? The application is not connecting to the database. What could be wrong? I know Terraform, one. I know AWS, two. The application is not connecting to the database. I know that as far as you're deploying it, there's a network involved. If it's not connecting, then definitely you have not allowed the NSG, like the network security group, to allow incoming requests to your database. That kind of a thing. You just immediately I told him check the NSG. I didn't even read everything. You know, that sometimes they'll send a message, you read it twice just to understand. I just told them, check the energy. You understand? Oh, Ida said, yeah. After, I replied after an hour. So Ida said, yeah, I made a mistake that he was not allowing he was not using the right NSG so as an inbound route for the database. You understand? So, but if it was in GCP, right, or even if it was Azure, as you mentioned AWS, if it is the same thing, like I said, the same thing between AWS and Azure. I will have answered them immediately if I saw the message on time, right? But for GCP, I'll tell you, let me just, because GCP is quite different in terms of the networking experts, right? The, what's it called? Let me give you an example. The virtual network in AWS and Azure, they are regional, right? But the virtual network in GCP is global. You know, I've explained regional to you, right? Regional is one is here, one is there, one is there. But anyone you create in GCP is global. They can access it anywhere, right? So that's just the difference between the network. And there are other differences too. They are not entirely the same in code. So you get what I'm trying to say. So it's all about consistency. It's all about, oh, I know this thing. I've done it a number of times. I know that this is where the issue is coming from. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And the second question is the differences between Azure administrator and DevOps is they are almost this. They are not almost the same, right? If you are saying Azure administration, in terms of provisioning, in terms of handling every of the infrastructure, I am responsible, right? If the developer say, "Oh, I want to deploy into a function app," you will create the function app for the developer, right? You will do that, but DevOps, in most cases, Azure administrator don't shouldn't be deploying, right? But they will say they have the right to deploy, right? But as a DevOps engineer, you should know about the infrastructure. You should know about the what those guys are deploying, about the application, right? So an administrator might just say, oh, let's say, let's add deployment to an administrator work. Let's say in code, Azure administrator is supposed to deploy, right? So in most cases, he might not know about the code. He shouldn't know, or in most cases, he doesn't know what the code is. On is if the DevOps engineer have done the pipeline, then you should be able to deploy, right? But for a DevOps engineer, you need to know about the infrastructure. You need to know about what the 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 concept of what you're deploying, right? You know about the product that you're deploying because you troubleshoot the pipeline, you troubleshoot the application, you also monitor your infrastructure, right? So it's just a level higher than, I mean, DevOps is just some levels higher than Azure administrator, because a DevOps will also do the work of an administrator in most cases. So you get what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. Now, my last question is there going to be like a roadmap to, becoming an Azure administrator or becoming a DevOps engineer so that we can also, follow through and at least before you come to the next class, you should be able to know what is going on. Then we
Okay,
can
so
also plan.
yeah, I get you. I'm going to send that to the group chat. It's not really a roadmap. There's another thing, right? There's this roadmap. Okay, sorry, roadmap.sh. You see this website, roadmap. You want to learn DevOps, right? You want to learn database, Postgres, a keyword, DevOps. You come here. You see the roadmap here, everything. If you click on it, it gives you the link to where to learn it. Do you understand? So that means you
Yes,
need to
I do.
know that means you need to know everything that is there. Funny enough, I know everything that is there. Not everything, sure.
this is this is this is this is this is scary.
So I don't want,
I
yeah,
thought
you
you shared
get that
everything.
was why I don't want to share this so that it doesn't look scary. But
Yeah, we not just run off.
funny enough, by the time we are done with this bootcamp, you would know at least 50% of, even not even more than, right? So there are some things that are just the background. Like for me, I started as a developer as a background. I just switched to infrastructure and DevOps engineering, right? Because I don't want anybody to be stressing me. Oh, this logic is not, no, 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 I don't do that, right? So better let me focus on infrastructure and DevOps, right? So it gives me higher um, the chance to be able to learn these things and to know all this, right? These ones are just normal. We'll talk about it. I hopefully we talk about it. Don't let me know. Don't let me start saying what I don't. I don't know if we hopefully we'll talk about it, but some of them operating system, Windows, we'll talk about the versioning, which is the gates. We'll talk about the networking and protocols. We'll talk about them. And we are currently talking about cloud providers right now, right? We talk about all these things, serverless, Lambda functions. We'll also talk about it, right? So you might not know everything, but you need to know the key ones. And these key ones are what we'll be touching through this what's it called? Through this bootcamp. Do you get? So don't let all these things pressure you. Let me close it. All right.
All
So
right, thank you so much. One more thing, please. You said you were actually into I think you were working as you were learning I think developer or something before you switched
yeah, I was
to.
a front end developer before.
Okay. So for us that might not really have that background, is that going to be an issue?
So to be honest, I need to be honest with you guys, right? It's not going to be an issue, and it might be an issue, right? It's not going to be an issue because um you learn on the job, right? You learn on the job. You're not the one writing the code. The way your coding skill comes in is probably you want to write logic in your Terraform, you want to write Bash script, you want to write PowerShell script, and that you can learn yourself. That was why I said you learn on the job. Um, the other one that I said where it might affect is I've seen a trend coming up where developers are now switching to DevOps, right? I've seen a lot of trend, right? But it's just a trend. We might not even get there, right? I'm just noticing it. A lot of developers, oh, chief, this I want to start learning. What's it called? DevOps engineer. I want to do this, and there's this company I'm consulting for, right? Within the space of, I think, let's see, within the space of 3 or 4 months, their developers have converted to DevOps, right? Their developers have converted to DevOps. So you get what I'm trying to say. So it might just be a trend, or it might just be them thinking, oh, there is life with, or there is no stress in dev. There is stress. As an administrator, they can call you at any time. They can call you, oh, something is down. Be the first point of contact, right? So you should be ready for that. Like, even I know some of my team is here, they're already feeling it. There are some people that they will tell you work till night. My boss calls me 11, 12 in the night sometimes, right? So it's just one of the things we sign up for as a DevOps or as an infrastructure or platform engineer. Do you understand?
Yes, I
No,
do. Thank you.
yeah, okay. So let's use the remaining minute to just talk about the landing zone, right? Hmm. Hold on, just give me a minute. I'm trying to look for the syllabus here. All right, so let's talk about the landing zone, and it's taking us to. All right, so in Azure, the way we do the hierarchy, right, is let me try to see if I can drop it onto chat. Is we have the management group, you get, we have the management group, then we have Um, the subscription. We have the resource group, and we have the resources. So, so we have the management group. If you see here, let me see if I can save it and enlarge this. All right. Yeah, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
All right. So you see that. All right. So we have the management group and we have embedded management group, right? We have probably, if you want to segregate, maybe you have your QA environment somewhere, you have your sandbox somewhere, you have your data team management group somewhere. You don't want, because the rule that applies in dev might not apply in QA, might not apply for the data team, right? You might want to separate them based on management group, right? So you have the workload for management group, sandbox, a shared management, and the security management group, right? Then within that management, they will have subscription, right? That's where you have prod subscription, dev and test subscription, and you for other ones you can have the networking subscription. There's something we call hub and spoke network. A lot of companies use that, right? Where they have one network and other network are connected to it, right? It forms more like a ring, right? So I will talk about, hopefully I talk about, because I know we've talked about it like in the last bootcamp. That's why I didn't plan for it. Right. So you have the subscription, we have we now have the resource group. Resource group is where you now um group your resources. Let's say this resource group, I want to deploy app services into it. You deploy it inside. Oh, this resource group, I want to deploy virtual networking. You deploy it inside. So that's how it looks like, and everything forms what, a landing zone, right? Motolani, do I have I answered your question? Hmm. I was about to, and he left. All right, so everything now forms what, a landing zone. Do you understand? So everything you're saying now is a landing zone. Everything from the management group to the subscription to the resource group and to the resources. These resources are maybe app service, virtual network, virtual machines that we've talked about, or storage accounts and disks. Those are the resources that you're seeing here. Resource group is, let me show you resource group, right? So let me say, okay, this is my application now. I deployed one application yesterday. Yeah, this is the application. You know what? Hey, mm, it might be that all right, so these are resources, right? And hmm, for some weird reason, I don't know what's wrong with my network. Hopefully, let me refresh it one more time. All right, so you see, this is the resources, right? You see that is a web app, this is the app service, right? It's inside the resource group, which is this. And also, and the resource group is in a subscription, which is this, right? This is the name of the app service, right? It's inside a running in a personal resource group, right? It's running on personal resource group. Then the resource group is in this subscription. That's how it looks like, right? But this is just an application that I just deployed yesterday. I know you're doing this is it. So do you get the concept of the management group, right? So we have most cases you won't be seeing this management group, right? You won't be saying it. You always see subscription, then resource group, then the resources. So let me now show you how it looks like now. So you see, this is the management group, the tenant root group, and this is the subscription. If I click on the subscription, you see it says resource group. I can check, come here and say, let me see how the resource group in this subscription, you see. And for each resource group, you have your resources. Yeah. So I'd click on personal, you'll see the what I deployed yesterday, this guy, right? And these are all the resources under it. So that forms what the landing zone. So does that answer the okay? I think Motolani is not here anymore. All right, so that's just the concept of the landing zone. So does anybody have any questions with that? All right, does anybody have any question with that? Right. So
Hi, sorry, Ola. Good,
yeah.
good evening. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
So just to get the action point, after this meeting, the first one is to be able to set up an Azure account,
Mhm.
right? Okay, and then for some of us that is very curious, we can also visit the roadmap just to know
Of
more.
course, of course, of course. And remember, I would want to rush us, right? And
Mhm.
I want us to take it step by step, right? So don't go to the roadmap and start beginning, right? No, don't do that. Take it step by step. I would want us to go start the roadmap after the bootcamp, to be honest. At that point, you will not be able to say, oh, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this. Let me start from here. Let me start from here. Do you get? But and if you say you want to just be curious and you want to dig it right, you can do that. And if you know that you are capable, you have that time, you can do that, to be honest. Let me drop
Mm.
the link here, roadmap.sh.
Okay, so just to say that in setting up the Azure account is self explanatory.
Of course,
And maybe,
definitely.
all right, thank you.
So but the first one is just go to my Visual Studio. If you don't have any account, it might ask you to log in as a Microsoft account, right, or something. Then go to that my benefits. Then you see the 200 naira, or $200, not naira. Sorry. So you get 7.
Can we withdraw it?
Oh, you can't too. All right. Any other questions, please? All right, so in the absence of no other question, we'll call it a day. We'll meet next week. Hopefully, starting from next week, we might just be doing. I don't know about you. We might be doing Saturday and Sunday, but I can't say for now. But that Saturday is still sure for me. But then sometimes I will not be available on Saturday. We'll just do it on a Sunday evening, same time on Sunday evening, if that's fine.
Yeah,
All
it's
right, thank you
okay.
so much, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.